Get ready to explore food, nutrition, and agriculture across Georgia. We are digging into how Georgia school nutrition programs are planting the seeds for quality school meals with Farm to School. This month, we explore the official state fruit of Georgia. Welcome to the Peach State. Now, Georgia has a rich history of peach production, as we will soon learn, but this fruit did not originally grow in the southern United States. Now, even though the scientific name for peach, Prunus persica, literally means Persian plum, genetic research states that the first peaches originated not in the Persian region, now known as Iran, but instead in China around 6000 BC. Fast forward to the 16th century when Europeans introduced them to Georgia's barrier islands, they soon realized that the climate was perfect for growing these fruitful trees. And then after the Civil War, when Georgia farmers were looking for an alternative to cotton, that's when the marketing, production, and distribution of Georgia peaches really caught steam. The Pearson family of Pearson Farm has been growing, harvesting, and selling peaches since 1885 and continues this proud family tradition to this day. Lawton Pearson and his cousin Will McGee take us on a journey of the famous Georgia peach.
My name is Lawton Pearson. I'm a fifth-generation peach grower from Fort Valley, Georgia. The peach industry started right around Fort Valley. That's why we're in Peach County. It was named Peach County back in the 1930s because it was the center of Georgia peach production. Back in the late 1800s, in a town not far from here, a peach was found called Alberta that they were able to ship to New York. And from that, they started growing tons and tons of them because they could sell them for $15 a bushel in New York in 1886. That was a king's ransom back then. Because of that, everybody started coming down here to plant peach trees, including my great-great-grandfather, who moved here in 1885 and started growing peaches, among other things.
My mother was Ann Pearson McGee. She was a Pearson. She's fourth generation. I'm fifth generation. This was her grandparents' house, the porch we're sitting on right now, and peach farming's in our blood. Where we're talking today is kind of the epicenter of where our family started growing peaches since 1885. You see behind me, this was the old Leapope Hotel. And it's historical in the fact that peaches require so much hand labor in a very short amount of time. We only need you for about 100 days during the summer, and then what do you do the rest of the year? And so what had to happen is each farm had to build what we call that a hotel. It's basically a boarding house where kids would come to Fort Valley each summer and they would room together and they would meet each other here, and we would send someone to the railroad downtown. We would have a sign, you know, need 12 today, and carloads of kids would come to Fort Valley because this is where the summer work was. And you'd live in that place for 6 or 7 weeks, meeting folks you'd never seen before. You'd work in peaches together, kind of like a summer camp, but you get paid. The walls in there are actually signed in some of the rooms where kids would meet, and this is where they stayed. There'd be 32 girls and 32 boys. Girls on the bottom floor, boys on the top floor. These are picking bags, so you basically, it's like a book bag for the front of your body, open up top. So as you're picking the tree, you're dropping peaches in here, then you get over the crate that's going to the packing house and you pull the bottom out and the peaches flow out the bottom into the crate. So it's just a peach picking bag.
These hotel walls have stood the test of time. As Will and any building preservation expert will tell you, you keep the roof up to date, the rest of the house will last a whole lot longer.
But we have these old ledger books of receipts of peaches picked and packed from years ago. So these are some canceled checks from 1913 of who the Pearsons were writing checks to. And this was, the bank would give them back, I guess, and they would go through. And so we've just got thousands of these checks throughout the years. What do you do with them? I don't know, but we still got them, so we have them right here. Moses, our founder, he died when he was 48 years old. And he had 8 children and his wife, Emma. And she ran the farm with 8 children by herself. And her oldest was Papa John Pearson, who we come from. And Papa John was they called him the Hammer. And before he took over, at some point, we don't know when it was, but she had she had done an inventory of all the mules on the farm, and she was putting the farm up for auction. This was right around the Great Depression, and nobody bought the farm, obviously, because we're still here, but this was an interesting piece of history that we found, this piece of paper where she listed all of her mules, the color, the age, and what they named them. Kay, Annie, Jim, Jack, Min, Ella, Maddie, Maud, Belle, Joe, Bess, Pearl, Dolly, Roddy, Ricky. All those were the names of their mules back then. It's kind of cool. Clyde. This is one of the spots where you can kind of see on the wall the girls that stayed in here signed the wall. It says, I am leaving Leapoke today for St. Louis, Missouri. May God bless you all, for I cannot. Yours truly, Star Cobb, July 8th, 1912. Some of these guys, we found out years later that this guy, Henry Boughton, was a very influential Atlanta attorney. And he signed this door in June 1927 and went on to be attorney there. Edwin Isom from 1919, Pat Wilkes from 1919. So they would just kind of sign the door and say that they were here. Just a neat little slice of Georgia history. You know, this is kind of where it began for our family, and are proud of our heritage. We are. Georgia peach is iconic. Whether you go to Minnesota, California, Florida, Canada, wherever you go and you say the word peach, the next word out of everybody's mouth is, oh, you from Georgia? And it's kind of a neat thing. It's kind of our signature fruit for the state, and we're just honored to be a part of that legacy. We have a special climate here in Georgia where there's a lot of peaches grown in other places, but peaches from Georgia are special for several different reasons. We grow in this amazing red clay here in Middle Georgia where our orchards are, and the clay gives the peaches so much goodness and nutrients, and it's a great place to grow trees, first of all.
We grow over 50 varieties in production on my farm and have 20 or 30 more in trials. There are hundreds of thousands of varieties of peaches through the ages. They're all different. They all have their own personalities. They ripen at different times. So when we're picking peaches, it really requires an experienced eye. So you have to know what variety you're picking at the time. And you want the background of this peach. This is August Prince. You want this is lime green. You want this to be creamy yellow. There's some peaches that are completely red, 90% red maybe, but they'll still have a background color that is more yellow. That's the difference right there. That creamy yellow and that bright green. This peach, he's good. He's fantastic. This peach needs 4 or 5 more days. The problem is, once I pick it, this peach gets no more sugar in it. It's as sweet as it's gonna get when I pick it. All it's gonna do is ripen. So I don't wanna be this. This may be just right. I miss it by a day and I lose it. So we spend a lot of time talking and training what's the right time to pick a peach, and it's different for every variety. That's what we're constantly working with the guys, is their eyes, and somewhat their hands. Our first description of a peach is not when it comes off, it's not how red it is, it's how it tastes. And if it doesn't taste good, it's pointless. We don't need to grow it.
You guys just got done out in the orchard seeing all the picking. So now this is what happens after they come in from the orchard. Peaches get pretty hot out there. Our goal here is to get them cooled down and stop the ripening process. Each bin rolls through, and after about 40 minutes, the peaches have cooled down to around 38 to 40 degrees. So here we are on the other end of the water tunnel. The peaches have had a nice bath. And this peach is now about 38 degrees. So this area is how we get the peaches out of the bins. We've got about 900 pounds of peaches in each bin, but we need to get them out in a very gentle manner. And so the machine you see over here behind me it's actually an Italian machine. They dump apples in this machine. Very gentle way to exit. They take the bin, they invert the bin. It goes up about 4 inches about every 3 seconds. And the peaches just kind of trickle out onto this belt and flow in to get graded. As you can see, when the peaches come out of the bin, I've got a lot of different sized peaches. And there are some peaches that are just way bigger than the others. So we've got some larges, we've got some mediums, and we've got some smalls. And so we've got a different customer group for every size peach we grow. And I'll tell you about who gets the different size peaches a little bit later. So what we've got here is our very first line of defense. We're going to start grading the peaches. We want to take out matter that is not a peach. So any kind of sticks or leaves, maybe any peaches that got bumped or cut on the right end, we want to make sure we get them out before we put them through the machines. And so these folks here are our very first hands that get to discern what's good, what's bad, and they're looking all day long, they're watching. You see that leaf right here? He's taking off the leaf. We're gonna grab that leaf and put it down the pipe. We got a little baby peach that decided to grow on it. We're gonna take that off and throw that down and throw it there. Sometimes after a big rainstorm, the peach grows a little too fast. When that happens, you'll see this crack open up right here. It's called a growth crack. Not very appetizing, so that becomes the number 2 for us. I'll show you about the number 2s later. Now we've got our graded peaches coming into the washer. What I'm trying to do is get all of the stuff that's on the outside of the peach that's not appetizing off the peach. And so we put them in these nozzles here. And these brushes are extremely soft. They're very soft to the touch, but their whole goal is to make this peach where it's edible when you pick it up out of the box. This is just natural water from a well coming up out of the earth, and this is how we clean our peaches every day. Every peach gets rolled and washed through here. This is our first step in the process where the 21st century technology comes into farming. Everything from this point backwards, the same way my dad did it, my granddad, my great-grandfather, and my great-great-grandfather. I'm not sure they would know what to do with this machine right here. This thing is pretty sweet. It's called an N-Scan pulse scanner. As the peaches come down the belt and singulate, every single peach gets in a cup, and it goes up underneath this machine, and 9 photos are taken and scans of every single peach. As the peach rotates one full turn, it takes 9 different photos, and it sees through the peach. It sees the exterior grade, and infrared sees through the peach. So now I know on a computer program exactly what that cup is carrying from a grade. Each peach has its own cup, and it rides, it stops here. It goes up under this machine, and that machine measures the circumference of the peach in millimeters. And when it gets past this machine here, it also goes on a scale. So I've got how many grams it is and how many millimeters wide, and that determines what box I get to put them in. This is something nobody has ever seen coming, and this is quite a machine. This is a very cool add to our packing house. So what we've got here is the final grade of the peaches. We have what we call the downgrade belt here and the number 1 grade belt here. So anything that's on this belt over here, our handy dandy machine has said there's a little something wrong with it. So we drop it on this machine and it made a good grade right here. We want to get that out of every one of them. Now, it's not garbage. We're able to sell it at about a half price, but it goes into our number 2 box. Meanwhile, if he feels anything soft, we've got this awesome lazy river. You see the water up underneath us? When he feels something soft, he puts it right here. It goes down in the river, and off the peach floats all the way through the packing house and back up into the dump truck. And that gets any sort of rot and mold, mildew, anything that we don't want contaminating the rest of the process. It gets it in the water and out of the packing house so we don't have to carry it out dripping all over the place. Over here, these are our number 1 peaches. This is why we're growing the peaches. We're trying to get nice, ripe peaches that are still firm to the market. On this belt are our number 1. Our Awida N-Scan technology has determined that we've got some soft peaches that are ready to eat right now. What's happening here is we are hand selecting what I consider is the best, most delicious peaches we have on our farm is right here. So if you look, that is so good. when you cut that peach open, absolutely gorgeous, perfectly ripe. My problem is I can't send soft peaches to the market. Lunchrooms, grocery stores, club stores, they will not accept peaches that are ripe and juicy and leaking water. But I got a lot of flavor right here. So what we're trying to do is capture the flavor of these amazing peaches right here without putting them on the market. So I want to take you to the back and show you how we're capturing all this flavor for the school system. This is what I'm trying to eliminate, right? These are peaches that just got a little too soft on the tree. And in order for the majority of your peaches to be ripe and hard, you're gonna have a small percentage of peaches that get through that you just missed by about a day. And so in order to pick 98% perfect, you gotta be willing to give away the 2 to 3%. However, I feel like we can get a market for these peaches, and that's what we're working on with the Slice program. One of the main problems with slicing machines is they have to be fed a very consistent, firm peach, every peach after peach. So it doesn't really do great for soft, juicy peaches. It does great for hard, unripe peaches. Well, we want to capture the flavor of that soft peach. And in order to do that, you just got to have hands. You got to have humans. You have to have somebody that at the moment of discernment, they'll take out the little bad wedge that might have a little spot on it, and they take that out, and then the other 81% of that peach are perfect slices. So we're doing everything in this room by hand and taking it that last little percent into bags. Let me show you how we're doing it. So first we peel peaches. We got a little peeler. Whoop. She took out a little spot right here, and she's able to cut around and get nice, ripe. This is where the flavor is. When you see that bright red, the bright yellow, the bright sherbet orange, those are the colors of a nice ripe peach. All right, so we measure it out. We put them in our nice bags here. Perfectly sliced peaches. Put a little bit of Fruit Fresh on here to preserve that color. And Fruit Fresh is the method of keeping the peaches fresh and colorful. Naturally, a peach, after you slice it, when it oxidizes, it turns brown, which is not very appetizing. You put the Fruit Fresh mixture on top of it, it keeps it nice, bright, and fresh. And now we got to make sure we have the right pounds inside the bag. So this is a bag vacuum sealer. So we are basically going to be sealing the bag. And there we are. So now we've got a fresh vacuum seal bag of 5 pounds of peaches. Each one of our bags are going to be flash frozen. And then we're going to put 2 of these bags in a case. And inside the lunchroom comes a case of 2 of these 5-pound bags. These are the perfect size peaches for our lunchroom. Now this peach was hanging on a tree this morning. It was picked, washed, and graded. Now it's in a box. Right now, this is before lunch. We've got a truck coming in about an hour, and they will be loaded on a truck headed to Atlanta within about 4 hours of hanging on a tree. That's how fast and fresh this fruit is going to the school system. I'm here with my Uncle Al Pearson, the patriarch here at Pearson Farms, and I want Uncle Al to kind of explain the story of the world's largest peach we got.
We had a picker that picked this peach, and he didn't put it in his bag. He took it to his crew leader, and the crew leader took it to the supervisor, and the supervisor brought it to the packing shed, and Will said, "Wonder what it weighs." So they weighed it, and then Will said, "I wonder what the world record is." And so it weighed 1.8 pounds. They looked up the world record, and it was 1.75. So we contacted Guinness, and they told us what we needed to do to certify the scales, and it turned out that we had weighed it accurately, and so we were awarded the distinction of the world's heaviest peach. And I thought we would get a whole page in the Guinness catalog, and we didn't quite get a whole page. We got a line.
We're told that packing houses all across the Southeast, they got one guy standing there all day long trying to beat this record, and nobody's been able to beat it in the last 7 years. So we're just gonna keep the record right here.
Right here. It was a lot of fun.
We made a cobbler out of it and,
Yeah.
and ate the cobbler. That
Right.
was good.
Farm to School is a movement that connects all parts of the food system with all aspects of the school day. We look forward to connecting with you again soon.